Is an eerie green color, so I say a little prayer that any impending tornadoes will have the common courtesy to wait until I get home. A little while. Every day I protect my baby's influence. So I'm standing at the door to lock it up, when a knock from the other side startles the ever-living hell out of me. Through the glass, I see a man in a floppy fisherman's hat. He's soaked to the bone, and his suit is dripping wet, and he's smiling in this weird way as he stands there in the torrents. He kind of waves a bit, and I consider that this is the stuff horror movies are made of, so I think for a minute about walking away and hiding in the supply closet, but it's too late. We've made eye contact, and I've not yet stooped so low as to let a little old man get crushed by flying debris, so I open the door and let him in. He hobbles toward the bar, leaning on a cane with every step. He's in old clothes, but they're perfectly kept. He struggles a bit to remove his jacket. Lightning flashes through the window like a strobe light behind him, and I should be scared, but it occurs to me that I could kick his ass in an emergency. He's tiny, maybe 80 years old, and it's gotta be pretty harmless. I think about my kids at home, wonder if they're scared, and I want with all my being to be there to comfort them, but I can't let this little old guy wander about in the storm, no matter how much I want to. We're closed, I tell him, but you can wait here till the weather settles. I'm not worried about the weather, he says. I'm staying across the street. I thought I might have a glass of wine. Closed, I repeat. But he points to the sign on the door and says, not until 10. And I hate that customer is always right shit, but he is right, and I do need the money. Fine, I say, but the cook's gone home, so you're gonna have to live with just wine. He half smiles and sets his hat down at the bar, paying no attention to the wine list I've handed him. Just looks at me. Can't make sense of any of it. Don't want to smile back at him. I just want him to order his wine and drink it and go home. Yes, I ask. He smiles. What can I get you? I don't want much, he says. Just 2 ounces of your favorite wine. I don't understand. Is this guy, hitting on me? Because he's way too old and I am not in the mood for charm. 5-ounce pours, bud, I tell him. We don't do samples. Then charge me for 5 and pour me 2. I stifle a sigh and grab the closest open bottle. It's Sangiovese, not my favorite, but it'll do. He smiles approvingly and slowly takes a sip and slowly swishes it around his mouth, savoring every long moment of it. And I don't want him to savor every long moment of it. I want to go home. Sangiovese, he confirms. Tastes like Italy, like summer on cobblestone streets. Tell me, have you been to Italy? Not that it's any of his business, but I have. I lived there for a few months in better days, and I loved it. And I'm pretty sure I'll never have the means to go back, which does not help my irritation. You can taste the sun, he says, the clay and the soil. And I grit my teeth and force a smile. Taste for yourself, he says. I can't, I tell him. It's inventoried, I can't. I paid for 5 ounces, he says. I'm drinking 2. That means 3 for you, at least a sip. I weigh my options. I can sit here and be miserable while he drinks wine, or I can sit here and be miserable while I drink wine that he's paying for. And the answer is clear, so I pour myself a sip. The wine is a deep red, almost black, and it fades to the color of a Tuscan terracotta on the edges. And it does, in fact, taste like sunshine. Despite my annoyance, I have to admit it's wonderful. I think of drinking with my housemate Patrizia in our gritty little flat in Montecatini, and then, without even realizing it, I say out loud, I miss it. I do. I miss everything about my old life. I miss being young. I miss not being worried all the time, and freedom. And I miss nights on that patio with Patrizia when we laughed until the neighbor lady yelled at us. I miss my old kitchen, the one where I made my family. I miss my friends. I miss it all. Strangers studying my face, and suddenly I am so uncomfortable. I just want to go home and cry, but I can't because I have to stay here in Stormageddon with Mr. Weirdy Pants. I miss it too, he says like he's been reading my mind. I traveled a lot when I was younger. Still travel, I guess, but not in the same way. This is why I like wine. Have you been to Germany? Let's try a Riesling. I've got goosebumps and I'm super creeped out, but I'm also kind of curious. Who is this guy? I pour our tasters. What's your story? I ask him. Where are you from? But he just swirls his wine glass, sniffs it intently, and says, "You've never been to the Mosel." Of course I haven't, but I sip my wine, and he paints a picture for me. Slate hills, chilly air, the crispness of a wet spring morning. Maybe it's just the wine loosening me up a bit, but I swear I can taste it all. Next, it's Rioja. He tells me about Spain, about how the intensity of the sun combines with the gravel in the soil to make wine that's spicy and hot, like sweating in the summer sun. Imagine working those vines with that sun on your back. Can you taste it? He says. And for a second, I'm almost enjoying myself. I let my mind wander. I forget for a second how hard everything is in this tiny Minnesota town. How'd you end up here? I ask him. I'm a bit of a wanderer, he says. I end up lots of places. You want to go to Bordeaux? I want to yell at him to just answer the question, old man, but I grab a new glass and pour samples of the French stuff, and we taste rainy days, chilly nights. We go to the valleys of Oregon for Pinot Gris and to Australia for Shiraz. And with each taste, he tells me about land or about people, and he asks me, "Can you taste it?" And there's a storm raging outside. But from out of nowhere, I notice something as familiar as an old friend. Assurance. This perplexing stranger feels almost like comfort, just for this second. "Why are you here?" I ask him finally. "You can travel anywhere you want, you know," he tells me. "It's important that we all just know that. It doesn't take so much, really, just a little taste and some imagination. And it's not really an answer, but it is what I need to hear, so I let it go." The rain tapers off, and the man grabs his wallet, and we go about the perfectly ordinary business of settling his tab, which he pays exactly in cash. And then he reaches into his pocket and produces a silver dollar. "Worth a bit more than $1, he explains. "Give them to my favorite people. Thanks for the conversation." I study the silver dollar, and he walks to the door. He's gone, just like that. In the days to come, I nose about the neighborhood to see if anyone knows anything about this weird old guy who shows up during storms and softens the hearts of broken people. But the small-town rumor mill doesn't help me much. Apparently, he spent exactly one night in the B&B across the street before checking out before dawn and disappearing wordlessly into a cab. I get his name from the proprietors, but a Google search turns up nothing. Google does tell me a thing or two about the coin, which I've carried in my pocket since the night I met him. It is, in fact, worth more than $1. It was a 1906 piece dollar, and there are almost none in circulation, and it looks to be in pretty good condition, so I bring it to the coin collector who lives on Water Street, and he raises his eyebrows at the sight of it. $704 is the final appraisal. Enough to make rent for just one more month. My hands tremble as I give him the coin. It means way more than money to me somehow. It's a physical tie to a life I want to live again, to a conversation I just want to keep in my pocket forever. Makes me remember assurance. How do you sell that? But my girls need food. They need a roof over their heads, so I hand that silver dollar over, in exchange for a paper check. And I still don't know where rent's gonna come from next month. For the first time in a long time, I think it might be okay. I take a step into the hot summer air and wonder where I'm gonna go next. Thanks, guys! Woo!